Chapter 856. You are the miracle. It seems you've learned a lot from working with Tangning. Kwanzai stepped into Lin Keon's apartment and began to analyze the place. But, don't copy the way that she deals with people. Not many people can accept that. President Mo can completely accept it. Lin Keon replied with a glare. How many Mo tanks do you think there are in this world? Kwanzai asked as he turned around and raised an eyebrow. I still have an event to go to tomorrow, so I need to rest early today. Are you sure you're not going home? Lin Keon sounded like she was trying to shoo him away. Although she didn't completely reject Kwanzai, she definitely wasn't at the stage where she completely accepted him. Kwanzai stared at Lin Keon for a few seconds and suddenly said in a serious tone, I'm going to deal with my mother, okay? Lin Keon lowered her head and laughed. She then looked up at Kwanzai and replied, I don't want to see her ever again. Can you avoid seeing her for the rest of your life? What if I told you I can? You should get going. Lin Keon shooed him again instead of giving a response. Kwanzai sighed and turned to leave. But, he did not immediately go home. Instead, he knocked on Lin Keon's neighbor's door. Give me a price. I want to buy your apartment. He could no longer tolerate seeing Lin Keon getting hurt. From now on, he was going to dote on his woman. Soon, the day of Shanglan's 32-16 elimination round arrived. This time, it was held at the Beijing Stadium, which had a seating capacity of 10,000 people. As her stage grew and her fan base increased, Shanglan felt she had more responsibility on her shoulders. After all, she wanted to get revenge for Lin Keon and also wanted to make the most important people around her proud. So, just before she began to sing, she looked at everyone and lifted the microphone to her mouth. As everyone is aware, my manager and I were attacked not too long ago. In order to save me, my manager was seriously injured and was only discharged from the hospital a few days ago. This experience has made a huge impact on me. I think I now have a better understanding of why I am on this stage and what I want to achieve. My boss, Tangning, saved me from the dark and gave me a new lease on life, while my manager prioritized my life over hers. The two of them have always been there to shelter me from the storm. Therefore, I think that every song I sing from now on should be sung with gratitude because I need to thank these two women for all the help they have given me and I need to thank the family at Superstar Media for the warmth they have shown. At the beginning, when Lin Keon tricked me into signing a contract with Superstar Media, I did not believe that a second chance was possible. But, Ningji proved to me that it could be achieved and that she could do the impossible. So, following on, I will be presenting everyone with a song that I wrote myself called, Saved from the Arms of Death. Shanglan had always been a good singer, but now, she sang with even more emotion. Her song sung about her understanding of life and also the struggles of being in a difficult situation. But, while the entire venue erupted in an applause for Shanglan, Superstar Media released a new statement. We would like to thank Shanglan for her continued trust in Superstar Media. However, we believe that she deserves an even better stage than what we can offer. So, from today onwards, Shanglan will officially become a part of Hyrule. Shanglan, we hope your career continues to soar and may you have a fresh outlook on life. Superstar Media are thankful to have worked with you. The next step in your career will be even more exciting. After seeing Superstar Media's PR statement, many people were shocked. Superstar Media's role was suddenly as clear as ice. Tangning had no intention of forming an independent agency. She was actually uncovering diamonds in the rough and waiting for them to be cut and polished until they shined before handing them over to Hyrule, where they had a bigger potential. She even mentioned in the past that she was just a talent scout. Everyone could immediately imagine how promising Zihan Mo and Luo Sheng's future would also be. Shanglan did not hear of this news until the competition round was over. But, when she did not feel happy at all. As a result, she immediately gave Tangning a phone call. Ningji, how come I didn't know about this at all? What? Are you not happy about joining Hyrule? I want to stay. You and Lin Keon were the ones that gave me a second chance. There are only 3 of us at Superstar Media. If you go to Hyrule, you will have an entire entertainment empire backing you. Superstar Media does not have the ability to give you the albums you want, nor can we help you achieve the status you wish for. Only Hyrule has the skill to help you advance. and only Hyrule can protect you on your path to stardom. Tang Ning explained patiently. Lin Qian and I will continue to support and find more people that are talented, but we don't intend on managing you anymore. Ningji, relax. I know you're worried, but trust me, Hyrule will give you a pleasant surprise. You will definitely like the entertainment empire that my husband has created. From now on, your affairs will be managed by a much more professional team. Xinglan was reluctant to leave, but just like Tang Ning said, there was a limit to what superstar media could do for her. Most importantly, she understood that Tang Ning still had a lot of people in the industry to save, while she needed to aim for a bigger stage. This was the best way to show her gratitude to superstar media. I will always remember that I started off as a part of superstar media. It's good that you remember, Tang Ning replied with a smile. After speaking, Tang Ning put down her phone and leaned into Mo Ting's embrace. I'm sending my first artist to Hyrule. Please make proper arrangements, Tang Ning mumbled to Mo Ting. Mo Ting kissed Tang Ning on the back of her head and hugged her tightly. All your artists are highly talented. Of course. Look at who selected them, Tang Ning humphed proudly. But deep down she didn't actually want to part with Xinglan. Meanwhile, in the eyes of outsiders, Tang Ning appeared to be making a huge sacrifice. After all, it wasn't easy for her to create such a successful artist, yet she signed her over to Hyrule so easily. Even though Tang Ning and Mo Ting were husband and wife, people couldn't help but say that she had done the hard work and handed the success to someone else. For now, the public couldn't understand Tang Ning's intention for establishing superstar media. But, Tang Ning naturally didn't care. Meanwhile, a large number of artists began to see the potential in signing with Tang Ning. So, they tried their best to grab her attention. But, Tang Ning was not the type to easily sign on a new artist. Have you picked out your next artist? Mo Ting gently asked before it was time to sleep. After all, she had already saved 3 artists, so it was only a matter of time before she signed more. Yes, I've picked someone, but they are not an artist, Tang Ning replied softly. Huh? Just wait and see. I am going to create a miracle, Tang Ning said mysteriously. Mo Ting couldn't help but laugh as he pulled Tang Ning dotingly into his arms and whispered beside her ear, "You're the miracle." Chapter 857, You are capable of anything. The public analyzed Tang Ning's current value to the entertainment industry and discovered that even though she wasn't a model or an actress, she was still capable of producing many useful results. Therefore, many artists appeared out of nowhere, wanting to sign with Tang Ning. It didn't matter if they were famous or not. In the eyes of these artists, as long as they underwent a transformation by Tang Ning, they assumed they would definitely achieve something. After all, even someone with a horrible reputation like Sai Hanmo managed to be completely cleaned up. However, Tang Ning was currently not interested in signing another artist. There was only one thing that she wanted to do. So, now that Xinglan had signed on with Hyrule, Lin Qian temporarily returned to Tang Ning's side and Tang Ning ended up giving her some information to go look for a director called Qiao Sen. Qiao Sen was a 60-year-old elder. As a director, his status in the film industry was slightly awkward. He changed professions late in life and went from being an engineer to pursuing a career in directing. He had mentioned a long time ago that he wanted to improve the quality of special effects in China, but no one was willing to invest in his proposal. Therefore, he barely produced any work and had no investors even though he had a great script. Because of this, he was diagnosed with depression and ended up moving to a private island under the care of his family. Tang Ning wanted him to make a comeback because she wanted to fulfill the old man's wish. She wanted to help him create a sci-fi film that the entire nation would be proud of. After listening to Tang Ning's idea, Mo Ting explained, "If you are serious about investing in a film like this, it needs to perform well in the box office. Otherwise, you won't be able to make back the cost." "I've already prepared myself," Tang Ning said with seriousness. "You know how serious I am." Mo Ting was quiet for a few seconds before he gently patted her on the head. "If you want to do it, then go ahead and do it. If you go bankrupt, I'll take care of you." Mo Ting did not stand in the way of Tang Ning's crazy idea. After all, he understood his wife's ambition. If Tang Ning wanted to do something, no one would be able to stop her. In that case, I may need to leave Beijing for a couple of days, Tang Ning said as she hooked her arms around Mo Ting's neck. I want to personally look for Elder Kiaosen. Ting. Mo Ting rubbed Tang Ning's forehead and hugged her tightly. I will give you whatever you want. Love was a relationship of mutual fulfillment. So, Tang Ning returned Mo Ting's hug and began to undo his shirt. The couple kissed each other passionately. Even after so long, their love was still intense. The couple then moved into the living room. Mo Ting regained control of the situation and placed Tang Ning onto the sofa. As he looked into her eyes, their bodies pressed against each other intimately. The two bodies became passionately entangled, like they were wrestling, as their infatuation for the other person drove them crazy. In the end, the couple spent the entire night displaying countless amounts of affection. This was the first time that Tang Ning felt her energy had been completely drained from her body. She could imagine that even walking upstairs would be a laborious task. Afterwards, Mo Ting carried Tang Ning upstairs to their bedroom. However, the couple were still joined together. So, in her dazed state, Tang Ning couldn't help but mumble, "No. No more." For the first time, the couple indulged in their desires because Mo Ting wanted badly to eat Tang Ning up and be with her forever. Although she hadn't completely regained her energy, Tang Ning diligently woke up the next morning to head out. But, just as she prepared everything and headed towards the garage to retrieve her car, she heard a horn honk from downstairs. Tang Ning glanced downstairs and saw Mo Ting sitting at the head of his car, gesturing for her to go to him. Tang Ning quickly ran downstairs. "Weren't you still sleeping just a moment ago? Let's go, I'll take you," Mo Ting said. "You need to go to work." "Did you think I'd let you go to a deserted island on your own?" Tang Ning giggled and nodded her head. "What about the kids? Mom will take care of them." As soon as Tang Ning boarded the car, Mo Ting immediately started the car and the couple set off. Thinking about the craziness of the previous night, Tang Ning peeked at the man beside her and discovered that he was full of energy, like he hadn't been affected by the previous night at all. "It will take roughly 4 hours to get there. Have a nap." "You didn't get much sleep last night," Mo Ting said, hinting another meaning. Tang Ning glared at him and humphed. She then pulled out some information and began to study Kiaosen's background. A little while later, Lin Qian gave Tang Ning a phone call. The two women had originally agreed to go together, but Mo Ting ended up leaving her behind. "We should have mentioned this to Lin Qian earlier. I feel a little bad." "Do you think it's more useful to have her around, or have me around, huh?" Mo Ting asked with a slightly seductive yet dangerous voice. This made Tang Ning laugh. You're capable of anything." As a result, Lin Qian carried her luggage out of her apartment and then carried it back again. However, as she stepped into the elevator, she ran into Quan Zai's manager. This, of course, made her curious. Hasn't your brother told you that he'd be moving next door?" Quan Zai's manager shrugged. Lin Qian furrowed her brows. Her initial intention was to put away her luggage and go next door to see what was going on. But, as soon as she opened the door to her apartment, she was shocked. Quan Zai had already ordered someone to knock down the wall between their apartments. Quan Zai originally thought that Lin Qian would be gone for a good few days. He never imagined that she'd be back so soon. So, the situation was suddenly a little awkward. "What's this all about?" Lin Qian crossed her arms as she pointed to the broken wall with her chin. Quan Zai sat back on the sofa in surprise. In the end, he shrugged his shoulders and lied. "I knocked the wrong wall." "Tell your people to fix it," Lin Qian warned. "But, I have no intention of doing that," Quan Zai said as he wrapped his arm around Lin Qian's shoulder. He then said to the workers, "Continue knocking it down." "This is my home." "I am your brother," Quan Zai replied naturally. "It's normal for siblings to live together." "We aren't blood related." "We are closer than that," Quan Zai replied smoothly. "You're not afraid that your mother will come over and see us?" "I'd rather she see us together." "I can't be bothered telling her about it." Quan Zai returned to his usual lazy and evilly charming self. "You should know that I'm not afraid of being discovered." "But, I'm afraid," Lin Qian snorted. "You don't need to be afraid. I'll take responsibility," Quan Zai said as he gripped onto her chin. Qian, stop avoiding me." Lin Qian did not respond. She couldn't be bothered arguing with him. "Let me point out the worst outcomes. If your mother has a heart attack or decides to commit suicide, I won't take responsibility." I told you that I'd take responsibility. Lin Qian was dumbfounded for a few seconds. In the end, she freed herself from Quan Zai's arms and returned to her bedroom. Even though Tang Ning had gone on a trip, it didn't mean she had nothing to do. She didn't have time to muck around with him. Long Ji continued to manage Luo Xing, while she watched over Zai Hanmo. But now, she had one more thing to worry about, the jerk, Quan Zai. They had agreed not to go near each other and promised to live their own lives. But, for some reason, ever since this man's blood began to flow through her body, she suddenly felt that hurting him was too cruel. Even though she knew their eventual ending, she couldn't control herself. Qianer, come out and eat. I made some food. Chapter 858. This young woman was quite brave. Shortly after, the two ended up sitting at the dining table together like things had never changed between them. But, a moment later, Quan Zai received a phone call from Mother Quan. He did not hide from Lin Qian. Instead, he openly talked to Mother Quan in front of her. Yes, I moved. It's for the convenience of work. Your father is almost turning 60. No matter what, you need to find time to come back for it. We'll talk about it when it gets closer, Quan Zai replied before he hung up the phone. A few seconds later, Lin Qian's phone began to ring. It was the same person calling. Lin Qian froze for a few seconds before she picked up. Mom, your father is turning 60. Come home to visit, Mother Quan said with neither a cold nor warm tone before she hung up the phone without waiting for a response. Lin Qian put away her phone and continued to eat her dinner like nothing had happened. But, this prompted Quan Zai to analyze her expression. Angry? I'm not that Betty, Lin Qian replied. You and your mother are two separate people, I'm well aware of this. Then eat more. These are all your favorite dishes. Lin Qian originally wanted to tell him that there was no point doing what he was doing since they would never last long. But, Quan Zai was so happy that she couldn't bear to say these words to him. It wasn't that she was being pessimistic and unwilling to fight for her happiness, but, she was afraid that Quan Zai would be left completely wounded. She didn't want to hurt the person that was most important to her. After lunch, Mo Ting and Tang Ning finally arrived at the private island where Kiao Sin lived and quickly explained to his family why they were there. But, Kiao Sin's daughter directly rejected Tang Ning and asked her to leave. It wasn't easy for my father to let go of his obsession and recover from his illness. I don't want him to come in contact with the film industry again. I feel that his current carefree lifestyle is more suited to him. Miss Kiao, I know that I am digging up a sad past, but, no matter how good Director Kiao is at pretending that he's given up, his biggest dream in life will always be to film an awe-inspiring sci-fi film. This is something he's persisted for a few decades. How difficult would it be to give up now? If you guys don't let him try, he may be able to temporarily feign happiness to appease you, but, in the long term, he will eventually realize that he can't let go of his hope and dream. I hope you can think this over. I will be staying at a hotel that is 10 kilometers away from the island. I will wait there for your response. The woman received Tang Ning's business card, but immediately threw it into the bin. I don't trust people from the entertainment industry. Please leave and never come back. The sea breeze swept up Tang Ning's coat, making her shiver. But, everything was within Tang Ning's expectations. Mo Ting pulled her into his embrace and kissed her on the forehead. Let's go. We'll wait at the hotel. It's cold here. It's fine. I want to stand here for a little while, Tang Ning replied. Since I'm here already, I can't return empty-handed. I can empathize with Director Kiao's family, so I know that I need to show them my standpoint. Mo Ting did not say a word as he drove his car over to shield the wind for Tang Ning. In this moment, he was Tang Ning's most stable form of support. Like this, the couple ended up standing by the seaside until late into the night. From the looks of it, the other party had not changed their mind yet. Get into the car, otherwise, you might catch a cold. After standing in the sea breeze for a good few hours, Tang Ning knew that Mo Ting had reached his limits. She also knew that she couldn't treat her body lightly. But, at this time, the metal gate to the property opened and Kiao Sin's daughter said reluctantly to the couple, "My father wants to invite the two of you in." Tang Ning turned around and glanced at Mo Ting before they followed Miss Kiao into the villa. At this moment, Kiaosen was busy fishing. It was best to go fishing at night because schools of fish generally came to the surface to feed during this time. Director Kiao, Tangning greeted politely. So it's Hiru's infamous CEO, Moting, that's here to see me. Kiaosen smiled at Moting as he continued to fish. Obviously, he wasn't familiar with Tangning. How could Hiru show interest in an old man like me? We're not here because of Hiru. This is my wife, Moting introduced. Kiaosen took a glance at Tangning, just one quick glance. President Mo, you're not telling me that your wife is the one that wants me to make a comeback, are you? I'm aware that you have a dream to create a blockbuster sci-fi film, a sci-fi film that everyone will remember. With you? Kiaosen looked at Tangning with doubt. You want to invest in my film? I want to participate in the production of it, Tangning replied straightforwardly. You're overestimating yourself. I know that in Director Kiao's eyes, I'm just a bored person with money. But, I hope you can sit down and watch the films I've participated in. If you continue to talk to me with this attitude, I don't think we will be able to work together either. My husband and I will wait for your response at the hotel. After speaking, Tangning wrote down the films she had acted in and placed them beside Director Kiao's feet. Ting, let's go. Moting was extremely unhappy with the old man's tone, but he did not react. He simply took Tangning straight to the hotel. His wife had already withstood the harsh cold wind for a good few hours. He did not want her to catch a cold. Meanwhile, the old man did not move. To be exact, he had no intention of picking up the paper that Tangning left behind. But, his daughter ended up picking it up and curiously doing a search online. The first film she watched was WH because she enjoyed disaster movies. Her original intention was to ridicule Tangning because she looked like just a pretty face. But, after watching the first few minutes, she found it impossible to stop watching. A moment later, the old man entered the living room holding the fish he had caught. Seeing his daughter was watching a film, he couldn't help but sneak a glance. What film is this? It's a film starring Tangning, the woman that handed you a business card this afternoon. The film is called WH. Her acting's not bad. After putting down his fishing rod, the old man sat down on the sofa beside his daughter. Like that, he ended up watching the film for 2 hours. It's hard to find anyone in China that can act as good as her these days. Don't you think so, Dad? Kiaosen's daughter sighed as she watched her father's forehead crease up in frustration. He could feel that Tangning's persistence with acting was on the same level as his persistence with filming, so he felt a little bad for the way he underestimated her. She has other films too. Do you want to watch them? Turn them on, the old man immediately ordered. Tangning had suddenly ignited a spark in his soul. If there was truly someone that was as persistent as him about filming a blockbuster sci-fi film and was completely committed, then, he had faith that China could produce a great film without any reliance on Hollywood. Was Tangning willing to be this committed person? If she was, then her name was definitely going down into film history. Of course, he was confident in his own film. But, what would happen if it didn't turn out well? He knew that not only him, but Tangning would also end up becoming a laughingstock. So, he felt that this young woman was quite brave. Chapter 859. She wasn't the same Lin Qian. Dad, what do you think about this? Kiaosen's daughter asked. I feel like Tangning is a serious person. If someone else had come looking for you, there's no way I would have let you even consider working with them. But, since it's Tangning, I'll let you make the decision on your own. Kiaosen crossed his arms and continued watching the film in front of him. In just one night, he watched through all of Tangning's films. In the end, he had to admit that, as an actress, Tangning moved him. Help me contact her. Hayes, I knew you'd change your mind. Lucky I pulled the business card out of the bin and kept it. As soon as she finished speaking, Kiaosen's daughter placed the crinkled business card in front of her father. Kiaosen hesitated for a long time. In the end, it wasn't until the next morning that he finally called Tangning's number. Meanwhile, plenty of people attempted to sign with Tangning via their contacts. As a result, both Longji and Lin Qian ended up with a handful of artists' details. But, Tangning had gone to visit the director on a private island. This meant, in the near future, she would be placing all her focus on filming a high-quality sci-fi film and wouldn't have time to sign another artist. During the 2 days that Tang Ning was gone, apart from checking on-site Hanmo overseas, Lin Keon practically spent all her time at home resting. At the same time, Kwon Zai attended events when he had them and stayed at home to keep her company when he didn't, even though Lin Keon didn't give him any attention. Meanwhile, Father Kwon's 60th birthday was just around the corner, but Lin Keon hadn't mentioned a word about it. From the looks of it, it seemed she had no interest in seeing the Kwon family. On the third morning, Tang Ning finally returned with Director Keon and some good news. So, Lin Keon went back to Tang Ning's side, curious to see the old man that was so persistent about filming a blockbuster sci-fi film. Kiao-sin was obsessed with sci-fi as expected, but, after returning to Beijing, he and Tang Ning did not need small talk to get along perfectly with each other. Kiao-sin knew that as soon as a time was set for filming, it would take a few years and be an extremely long process, especially during the post-production stage. So, he asked Tang Ning to prepare herself. In response, Tang Ning took out all her savings and invested it straight into post-production. She then asked Kiao-sin to find a production team that he could trust in because she wanted to make sure that the film was worth the money. Kiao-sin admired Tang Ning's boldness. Of course, he was also prepared to show off his success. After everything was settled, Tang Ning had a rest in her office. At this time, Lin Keon knocked on the door and walked in. "You don't have anything planned for tomorrow night, do you?" "Why?" Tang Ning asked. "I need to attend my adoptive father's 60th birthday celebration." Lin Keon shrugged. From the tone of her voice, it was obvious that she didn't want to go. "You're talking about Kwon Zai's father?" Tang Ning raised an eyebrow. She was aware that a lot of unhappy things happened between Lin Keon and Mother Kwon. Perhaps it was because Mother Kwon knew she was an adopted daughter, so she always expected her to be grateful. As a result, Lin Keon had suffered quite a lot in the past. "That's right," Lin Keon said before she turned and left. However, Tang Ning held her back. "Wait a minute," she said before she handed Lin Keon her car keys. "I think you may need this." For a woman, the best way to deal with those that look down upon us, is to show that we have a successful career. Lin Keon smiled in agreement, but she did not take Tang Ning's key. "Don't worry, I know what to do." Lin Keon knew that Tang Ning was afraid that she'd be humiliated, but, she was no longer the same Lin Keon. She would never let anyone try to sell her on again. The next day, Kwon Zai was dressed up in formal attire and ready to go when he noticed that Lin Keon had not made a move. So, he pushed open her study room door and asked, "You're not going yet?" "You go first. I still have a few things to finish off." "You're not going with me?" "Why must I go with you?" Lin Keon asked. Kwon Zai knew that Lin Keon couldn't treat the problem with his parents like it was nothing, but the fact that she was willing to go to the birthday celebration was already a huge compromise. So, he slowly closed the door and called his manager to bring his car. Keon's not going?" The manager was curious to see Kwon Zai all on his own. "Give her a bit of time." After speaking, Kwon Zai jumped into the driver's seat and started up the sports car. However, just before he left, he took one last glance at Lin Keon's room. After Kwon Zai left, Lin Keon closed up the documents in her hands and walked calmly over to the wardrobe. The Kwon family were celebrating a big birthday, so they decorated the vintage-style villa in a particularly extravagant manner. On the surface, Mother Kwon and Father Kwon were holding a banquet, but in reality, their ultimate motive was for Kwon Zai to meet the daughters of some of Beijing's most socialite families. Perhaps he'd be interested in one of them and stop placing all his focus on the entertainment industry. After all, Father Kwon hated the fact that Kwon Zai was in the entertainment industry. He did not believe it was a legitimate career choice. Father Kwon and Mother Kwon were weaving themselves through the room of guests when Kwon Zai arrived, dressed in a black suit. Kwon Zai was cool, handsome and born with an evilly charming aura. So, as soon as he appeared, he naturally drew the attention of the women in the room. This made Mother Kwon extremely pleased. "Zai, what took you so long?" "Your aunties and uncles have been waiting anxiously for you. It's my father's birthday today." "Why would they be waiting for me?" Kwon Zai asked. "You little rascal. Let me tell you, Your Auntie Lee's daughter just returned from studying abroad and it's her first time visiting our home. She's not familiar with the place, so you should show her around." Hearing this, Kwanzaa immediately scoffed and looked at his mother in ridicule. "Mom, where's Kian?" Mother Kwan's expression suddenly turned sour. "Why are you suddenly mentioning her? She's my sister. Why can't I ask about her? She's just an outsider." Mother Kwan looked away. "Quick, go and keep Auntie Lee's daughter company." Kwanzaa did not reject Mother Kwan's request as he walked over to Miss Lee. The young woman was pretty with a good body, but Kwanzaa did not give her a second look. "Zai, am I making things difficult for you?" The woman was interested in Kwanzaa. After all, to be able to tame a bad boy like him was an extremely prideful thing. Kwanzaa was disgusted by the woman's obvious question, so he directly replied, "Yes, it's very difficult." "Hey, a broken bar, heard you also have a sister. How come I don't see her?" With the mention of Lin Keon, Kwanzaa's gaze slightly changed. "That's none of your business," Kwanzaa replied before he hid to the side. Seeing the confused look on Miss Lee's face, a few people approached to clarify things for her. The Kwan family only has one son. Lin Keon is adopted, so she's not blood related. "I heard that Lin Keon is an ungrateful wench, so no one in the Kwan family likes her. At the moment, she's working in the entertainment industry." "What about Kwanzaa? What does he think about his sister?" Miss Lee asked. Chapter 860, You Weren't Seeing Things. "I don't think he likes her either." After all, who would like someone that appeared out of nowhere to steal half the affection from their parents? After hearing this, Miss Lee breathed a sigh of relief as her attraction for Kwanzaa grew. The celebration was about to officially start, but Lin Keon was still nowhere to be seen, so Mother Kwan thought Lin Keon wasn't coming. But, just as she revealed a ridiculing smile, a white sports car pulled up at the front of the villa. Out of the car stepped Lin Keon dressed in a long diamond-encrusted silver gown, looking extremely feminine. "Isn't that the child that the Kwan family adopted?" "Is that Lin Keon? She's so beautiful. We don't see this child often. I never expected that she'd be so impressive." Everyone began to talk about Lin Keon. In fact, a few words made their way into Lin Keon's ears. But, Lin Keon was not intimidated as she walked elegantly towards Father Kwan and Mother Kwan in her white high-heeled shoes and gave them a hug. "Mom, Dad." Father Kwan was indifferent as he briefly acknowledged that it was good that she was back. Meanwhile, Mother Kwan's gaze was spiteful and cold. Lin Keon looked at the two elders. Just as she was about to hand them her present, Kwanzaa suddenly pulled her into his arms and gently hugged her. Keon." Lin Keon angrily stepped on his foot. This man was doing this on purpose, even though they were obviously living under the same roof. Everyone saw the way that Kwanzaa hugged Lin Keon. Although it was just a gentle hug, it still surprised them. He did not go near any of the young socialite women in the room, yet he treated Lin Keon with such affection and love. It seemed, this brother did not dislike Lin Keon the way that everyone rumored. Mother Kwan was extremely displeased by Kwanzaa's actions, but she couldn't complain in front of everyone. So, she quietly reminded Kwanzaa, "Zai, help me entertain the guests." Lin Keon pinched Kwanzaa and Kwanzaa laughed. Soon, it was time to open the gifts. Each family presented Father Kwan with their expensive offerings. Miss Lee, in particular, gifted him a 1,000-year-old antique because she knew that he liked to collect them. "This is worth tens of millions. It looks like Miss Lee is trying to win the favor of her future father-in-law. This is worth too much." After receiving everyone's admiration, Miss Lee's lips slightly curved upwards. As a response, Mother Kwan did not stop praising the young woman. You are too kind. I'll get Zai to share a dance with you later." Miss Lee turned and looked at Lin Keon. For some reason, even though there were so many female guests in the room, she felt hostile towards Lin Keon. Was it simply because she was Kwanzaa's sister? Keon, what did you prepare for your father?" an elder asked. "It wasn't easy for your parents to bring you up. You need to be filial." Lin Keon smiled, pulled a box out of her handbag and handed it to Father Kwan. "I don't have anything expensive, so I can only give you this old item, Lin Keon explained with a smile. Everyone thought Lin Keon was indeed nothing compared to Miss Lee. There was no wonder that the Kwon family smiled so happily at their future daughter-in-law and was indifferent towards Lin Keon. Father Kwon received the box, but, as soon as he opened it, he froze for a few seconds before his eyes became teary. Keon, where did you find this? I heard you mention it when I was young, so I've been looking for it over the years. It turned out, the gift that she had given Father Kwon was something that once belonged to Keon-sai's grandfather. Back in the days, he had sold this broken watch to launch his business. This was extremely sentimental for Father Kwon. Obviously, Father Kwon was more pleased with this broken watch than the antique received from Miss Lee as he held the watch in his hands and caressed it over and over again. Mother Kwon glared at Lin Keon, angry that she had snatched away Li's limelight. But, Lin Keon pretended that she didn't see a thing as she completely ignored Mother Kwon's glare. That's why they say a daughter is a father's heart warmer. I guess they're right. Just because she heard about it when she was young, she remembered it until now. She sure is filial. Everyone's image of Lin Keon began to change. Keon, I heard you work as a manager in the entertainment industry. Aren't entertainers difficult to get along with? Someone deliberately provoked. They wanted to embarrass Lin Keon and make it sound like she was hanging around with a bunch of clowns. But, Lin Keon smiled elegantly and replied, I think the one that is difficult to get along with is you. At least, they've never tried to make things difficult for me. As soon as she heard these words, the woman was dumbfounded. I'm sorry, I need to go to the bathroom. Please continue without me. Lin Keon knew that everyone would start attacking her soon if she didn't leave, so she quickly made her way out of there. However, just as she reached the first floor bathroom, a black figure suddenly pressed against her, pushed her inside and locked the door. Are you crazy? Lin Keon glared at the sight of Kwon Sai. Kwon Sai gripped onto Lin Keon's wrist and with one swift move, kissed down on her lips. I'm sure you must have expected me to do this. Lin Keon took a bite of Kwon Sai's lips and sighed. Do you want the whole world to know that we are doing something immoral? All I care about is my happiness. I don't need to care about what others think. But I care. Don't force me into a dead end, Lin Keon said in seriousness. After hearing this, Kwon Sai pulled Lin Keon into his embrace. Just let me hug you for a little while. I guarantee that I'll behave. At this moment, Lin Keon's heart weakened and she stopped resisting. After a little while, Kwon Sai let go of her as promised. Let's continue at home tonight. After he was done, he opened the door and ran out. Lin Keon turned to the mirror and began to touch up her makeup. But, a little while later, Li suddenly stepped into the bathroom and asked, a moment ago, were you and Kwon Sai in the bathroom together? Miss Lee, I think you're overthinking things, Lin Keon replied in an extremely calm manner. But, I saw it with my own eyes. You were seeing things. But, Li was certain that she wasn't seeing things. She even saw Kwon Sai wipe the lipstick off his mouth as he walked out. What was going on with these siblings? Her mind was a blur. Li thought of countless possibilities, but the one that she believed the most, was that Lin Keon seduced Kwon Sai. After all, they weren't blood related. Thinking of this, Li felt that Lin Keon was completely disgusting. So, she decided to tell Mother Kwon about this. How would Mother Kwon react if she was to find out? After returning to the celebration, Li approached Kwon Sai and asked, Sai, I think I just saw you in the bathroom with Lin Keon. Was I seeing things? No, you weren't seeing things, Kwon Sai admitted without hesitation. What? Li looked at Kwon Sai in shock, her eyes so wide that her pupils almost popped out of their sockets.
Hit the like, thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening.